Hello and welcome to this special module on visioning for cluster or block level federations. Generally, these trainings are done live by the national resource persons with the community leaders. But this current module, which is also named as the I Can Do series, will help you do these modules by yourself with the community leaders, and that's why the name I Can Do. This module has been designed by two national resource persons who have been associated with the Nagaland State Rural Livelihoods Mission for the last 4 to 5 years. One of them is Mr. Girish Pradhan and the other is yours truly, Shivaji. As all of you know, the visioning that we do with our cluster level federations is a three-phased program leading on to the planning process. So there is a visioning 1 exercise followed by an interface. Then there is the second visioning exercise followed by a second interface, and then the final visioning exercise. For convenience sake, we will call them V1, V2 and V3. This current module is a video module wherein we will share instructions, guidelines and tips for you to conduct these visioning exercises easily. For your ease, we've also divided each of these visioning into multiple videos so that you can see, refer and then prepare yourselves accordingly. So let's begin with the Visioning 1 or V1. V1 or Visioning 1 is generally a TOT event or a training of trainers event wherein we invite all the leaders or representatives of the VLO to the cluster level federation for a 3-day meeting. In places where there are no existing CLFs in the area, we ask the VLOs to identify some representatives, 2 from each VLO, who can learn something new and then can help the VLOs understand the same. V1 is conducted with these representatives to help them understand the process of village level visioning, and once they have learnt it and practiced it, they can then during the interface go on and do a 1-day visioning exercise in their respective VLOs. Facilitators, please remember that in V1 that you are going to facilitate is a 3-day affair, whereas the representatives, when they go back and do the village level visioning, that is only a 1-day exercise. So let's prepare ourselves for this module. The professional concerned has to make several preparations for this training. Selection of representatives, at least 2 from each VLO, has to be done well before the event. The participants have to be well informed about the time and date of the program. Their agreement is paramount to the organization of this meeting. The necessary logistical arrangements have to be made, like charts, markers, drawing boards, LCD projectors, permanent markers, etc. A training room with a minimum seating area of around 250 to 300 square foot is required for this meeting. Please avoid fixed chair rooms because there will be a lot of physical activity and the participants would have to move around, which will not be possible if there are fixed chairs in the rooms. Broadly speaking, this training should take around 12 to 14 hours, and these 12 to 14 hours have to be spread over 3 days. Let's just take a look at the different sessions that are going to be done. So here is the session framework. The first session is a micro lab. The second session is an expectation mapping and an objective sharing session. Then comes the session which is named as recollecting the utility of the forums like SHGs, VLOs, etc. The fourth session is importance of having a vision. The fifth session is dreaming our future. The sixth session is dimensions of change and prioritization of dimensions. Seventh is understanding the forces which affect change. Eighth is preparing for the village level visioning. And the final session, ninth, which is planning for the village level visioning. So let's go on and begin the first session, which is the micro lab. This is going to take us roughly around 45 minutes. And the materials required, as you can see, a training hall, some walking space, and of course you need the questions to be asked during the micro lab. The facilitator shall, post the registration of attendees, ask them to assemble at the center of the room. The facilitator shall, in a clear voice, give the following instructions for them to follow. You will begin this session by asking all the participants to stand up in a loud and clear voice and tell them that they have only to follow the instructions that you are going to give and not do anything extra. So if you ask them not to talk, they are not supposed to talk. And you ask them to move around, then they are supposed to move. Consider this hall as a playground where you can move anywhere. Please start moving randomly until I say stop, and as you move, make eye contact and greet each other without saying any words. Let them move around for a few seconds, say around 15 to 20 seconds. Then announce stop, form a pair, and share one interesting event that has happened with you in the last 1 month. Give them about a minute to discuss this in the pairs. Once the time is over, then announce the following. Now again start moving around in the room, but this time in slow motion. Wait for them to do the same. Stop, form a new pair, and in this pair, share any new skill that you have learned in any previous training and how do you feel about it. Give them about 2 minutes to share their thoughts on this and then go on to the next announcement. This time, start moving around in the room but silently. Stop. Form a new group of 3 participants, and in this group, share what do you think that is the best way to come out of poverty. Give these newly formed groups about 3 minutes to discuss and share their thoughts, and once those 3 minutes are over, go on to the next instruction. Now start moving again. Stop. Form a new group of 3 people and try and form these groups with people whom you know the least, and share one experience in the last 1 year where you have made someone else's life better. Now give these new groups another 3 minutes to sit and discuss and share their thoughts and feelings, and once the 3 minutes are over, give them the next instructions. Now start moving around the room randomly. Let them move around for about 15-20 seconds. Then announce stop, form a new group of 3 and share 2 of your personal qualities which you think make you the most suited for working with poor people in villages. Give them about 3 minutes to sit and discuss their point of views and then give the next round of instructions. Now form a large single circle. Share the quality that you thought about yourself in the large group. Once a participant is shared, it is expected that other participants would appreciate by patting the back of that person. Once most of the participants have shared those qualities, go on to the next round of instructions. Now remain in the circle. Share one dream that you have about your village that you hope to achieve in the near future. Wait for a significant number of participants to share their dreams. Once they have shared their dreams, give them this task. Now, in your places, please sit down, take a sheet of paper, think about the expectations that you want to be covered in this program. Once this is done, you can then share it to the larger group, and then after their sharing, the facilitator needs to find a place where these pieces of paper with the expectation written are pasted. This is pasted so that it is clearly visible for the participants and they can see whether their expectations have been met. There is also another need for this pasting of expectations. The facilitator can keep track whether the training that he or she has planned is going to address the expectations of the participant. The facilitator ideally should keep a note of the kind of expectations which have been shared by the participants, and also keep a note of those expectations which would not be met in this training, because this has to be communicated clearly during the next session. This brings us to the end of this session, and we now go on to the second session, which is a formal welcome and an objective sharing session. So this is session 2, welcome and objective sharing. This is going to take around 30 minutes. The materials required are whiteboard or an LCD projector where you can project your slides. And you also may need a marker if you just have a whiteboard with you. You can begin this session with the announcement. For this event, following are the objectives that we'll cover in the next 3 days. Show them the slide on objectives and help them understand what these objectives are. You can take a look at the objectives which have been written here. The first objective is to revisit the unity already achieved by the CLF. Building vision of CLF for the future. Third, understand the dimensions that need to be worked upon to achieve the vision. And fourth, preparing the village level visioning and understanding what kind of preparations are required for this village level visioning. And also, very importantly, address those objectives or those expectations which would not be covered in this training and tell them which training is going to cover those kind of objectives. It is quite normal that participants may come with very transactional aspects like we want to learn how to run an CLF. We want to understand how to maintain books of records of the CLF. So in both of these cases, please tell them that there are separate trainings to address these issues. As far as this training is concerned, we are only going to focus on the objectives which have been mentioned in the session. So let's go on to the next session. Now we go on to session 3. This session is called Remembering or Recollecting the Strength of Unity of the Forums that are already there in the villages. For example, the SHGs and the VLOs. This session is going to take about 45 minutes and the materials required are 2 different colored woolen balls. Now this number of woolen balls can differ. If it's a large group, then you can go for 4 subgroups and then you should have 4 different colored woolen balls. So this thing needs to be kept in mind. Let's go on to the session now. So this session begins with the following announcement. I will request all of you to divide yourselves into 2 groups. As I've already mentioned, the facilitator needs to understand this in the context of the training. If this is a large enough CLF where there are more than 20 VLOs, then it would be advisable if we form more than 2 groups, and therefore the woolen balls required would also be more. The next instruction that you're going to give is the following. Please recall the changes that have happened in your lives after becoming a part of the SHGs and then being mobilized into VLOs. Each group member will recall one such change and pick up a piece of the wool string and tie it on their fingers. Then they will throw the woolen ball to any other member that she wants to, and the new member who receives the woolen thread will then follow the same instructions. She would share one change that she has observed in her own life or in other people's lives after having joined an SHG or VLO, tie the thread around her finger and then pass it on to a third member. And the third member would also do the same thing, and this passing around and tying of the woolen ball would keep on going till everybody has shared at least one change that has come in either their lives or in the lives of their SHG members or villagers around them. As you can see, after the exercise, each group will have a network created by these woolen balls which might look like these networks which are being shown in the screen in front of you. All that needs to be done here is for the woman to take this net of woolen threads and paste it on a wall where it is visible for everybody. Next, the following announcements need to be made. Do you see this pattern? This pattern is basically a symbol of your unity and your collective experiences. Yes, like all of you shared the positive experiences which have been created by the VO, this web which we have formed can also be called the web of positivity. Whenever you feel low or less confident about your efforts, please remember this web and the kind of changes that you yourselves have brought into your lives by forming SHGs and VLOs in the first place. This network or this web is a symbol of your unity and your determination to be able to achieve everything that you desire despite all odds. This brings us to the 4th session of the day. This session is known as the importance of having a vision. You will require 90 minutes for doing this session with your participants, and the materials required are: you need to have the story material for the case study that you're going to narrate. You'll need to have some chart papers, markers, and of course whiteboard to put across many of your points. Basic materials required, not much of hassles here. So let's dive right in to this session. Remember, this is one of the pivotal sessions of the whole visioning exercise, because this is where participants will learn why is it important to have a vision in the first place. So have them sit in a circle, and you can stand in the middle of the circle and start narrating the story with the following instructions. Tell them that it has been really fascinating to hear all the good work that you've done in your VLOs. Similarly, I had come across a story of a woman just like you, living in a village in your state itself. Would you want to hear her story? Wait for them to say yes, and then start the story. So the story goes something like this. There was a poor woman named Jenny in the same village which we've been talking about, who had a small family of 2 children, a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. Their family's livelihood was based on the daily earnings. One day, her husband told that, "I think it's a better idea to go to Mumbai for better income opportunities, as the family requirements were increasing day by day." Jeannie was a little afraid and confused. However, they decided that her husband should indeed go to Mumbai and that Jenny would take care of her family. So her husband left. Jenny slowly acquainted herself after a few days of her husband's departure to Mumbai, and was gradually managing the family smoothly with the money being sent by her husband. For the first 2 to 3 months, her husband is regular in sending money and writing letters to Jenny. After a few months, the money coming from her husband stopped, and so did the letters. Very soon, there was no money with her. The savings were all gone. Jenny went to a local moneylender and asked for some loans, but the moneylender rejected her plea. Jenny was crestfallen. How will she manage her family? There is no ration in the house to even feed the children. Without any option, she kept a cooking pot with only water in it so that it would boil and it would show that the food is getting ready. But there was no rice in it. Jenny started to sob as the daughter asked her, "Mama, is there no food?" Hearing her crying, her neighbors came to her house, and Jenny explained the story to her. The neighbor supported Jenny with some ration and suggested her to go to the nearby SHG, where she may get some solutions and also help. Hopeful, Jenny went to the nearby SHG. The SHG members, after hearing her story, suggested to her an idea of selling refreshments at the outskirts of the village where there is a new road construction going on. Jenny was happy. That's a good idea. I think I cook quite well and I can sell these refreshments at the location. But that is almost 5 kilometers from my house. How do I take my things? Even if I cook at my home, by the time I reach there, it'll be all cold. This was the new dilemma that Jenny faced. Another member came up with an idea. She suggested, "Jenny, why don't you take another loan from us and buy a bicycle and then sell the tiffin there? You can carry your food on the cycle and it'll take you less time, and then you can sell and come back." That's a great idea. But the problem is, I do not know how to ride. That can be addressed later on, her friend said. And Jenny went about taking the loan, buying the necessary things, and also the cycle for conducting this business. Jenny was determined to ride the bicycle for the sake of her children. She tried to learn how to ride the bicycle, but whenever she tried to ride the cycle, she started while looking at the pedal. She was always looking at the pedal, but every time she tried to ride the bicycle while looking at the pedal, she fell down. She called her neighbor and asked her that, "See, I can't ride the bicycle. Can you help me?" So the neighbor held the bicycle from behind, and Jenny tried to ride, but again her eyes were focused on the pedal, and as soon as she tried to ride, she hardly had gone a few meters and she fell down. End the story here and ask the participants. Now that you have heard the story, can you tell me Why was Jenny continuously falling from the cycle and was never able to ride it properly? Every time she started to ride it, she could hardly go not more than 3 meters and she used to fall down. What could be the reasons? Wait for the participants to respond to the question. Some of them will say that she was not prepared. Some of them might say that it was her first time. The actual reason is, whenever you ride the bicycle, the cardinal rule is to look ahead towards the objective where you want to go. If you do not follow that cardinal rule, you are bound to fall down. Wait for some responses, and I'm sure one or the other of your participants who know a bit about riding a cycle will say that she was continuously looking down. Once you get this response from the community that she needs to look forward, then continue the conclusion of this story. And you can do this by saying, we always look ahead before riding a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car, without which there is a chance that we may either fall down or we may either lose sight of the road and get into some bad, nasty accidents. Even if you want to walk or in a race, you always have to look ahead, without which you would not understand the directions that you need to go. To close the discussions on this session, give the following instructions. Great. In order to help the families to come out of poverty, support their livelihoods and bring changes in the village, what is the first step that the CLF has to do, just like Jenny did before she started learning how to ride a bicycle? Wait for them to answer that they also, like Jenny, need to see ahead. Or in other words, they need to have a target in their mind. They need to have a dream to go ahead. Here it is important for the facilitator to note that once the word target or dream starts coming up, try and use a local word for dream, because that helps people to identify with that word. And since vision is something that you're going to continue to focus throughout the life of the CLF, this common word, which is also a local word, will help the people associate themselves with the dream. With this, we come to an end of this session, where people have understood why it is important to have a vision. So with this, we come to an end to the first micro module of the Visioning 1 training. We hope you had fun listening to what we had to say, and we also hope that you have great fun in facilitating this session. See you all in the second part of the micro module for V1.